Hi everyone, and welcome to the All Things ITSM Global Podcast, coming to you from Knowledge 16 in Las Vegas. I'm Kirsty McGowan. I'm here with Ken Gonzalez.
Hi, Kirsty.
Hiya, Ken. Carlos Casanova.
Hey, Kirsty, how are you?
Very good. And it's our pleasure to be chatting with Farrell Hough from ServiceNow today. Hi, Farrell.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So, Farrell, welcome aboard to the podcast. Great having you here. You've been busy, obviously, for a few hours already this morning, kind of running around on stage. Why don't you give us a little bit of background on, what you do with ServiceNow and,
Sure.
how that plays into the whole strategy and roadmap of what you talked about this morning?
Absolutely. So I started out with my roots in ITSM, and that's what I've been doing at ServiceNow. So I've been running internally our own practice of ITSM in our operations and R&D organization, and then recently took on the role of general manager for our ITSM business unit. And that is building product, talking to customers, building out a roadmap. What do we need? How do we need to grow from an ITSM perspective?
Wow, it sounds like you get your hands full.
I do.
Absolutely.
So, apart from the normal stuff that we expect people are going to do in the ITSM arena, one of the things I've been saying probably for the past 5 years is this is going to be the year of continuous improvement. We're finally going to kind of get that embedded inside of our culture and get beyond just talking processes and workflows. From a conversation we had earlier, it seemed that was kind of the direction you're heading in. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. We are ripe for improvement, as you all know.
Yeah.
And I've been living it. And so when I took this job on, I'm like, we've got to do something for our customer base, to know where they are, to understand how they're doing and where they need to go. Right now, we really just, the most we can offer today is a look at yourself, and you got to make sure you know what to look at and that you are looking. And then maybe an extension of that would be communities of practice, user groups, if you're open to ask for comparative data. But really, ServiceNow is very, very well positioned to be able to present that information back to our user base, create that transparency that people can see, well, here's where I am compared to others, here's where I am compared to my peers, here's where I am compared to vectors that are meaningful to me, and then from there be able to build and say, okay, folks who are like you and are in this position do these 3 things next to kind of take you to that next level. It's really helping everybody on their maturation journey.
And can I just, one follow-up?
Yeah.
How would you say your experience using the tool internally helps you prioritize what actually gets put into the product for future releases that go out to the customer base?
Yeah, well, I mean, a very specific example would be incident deflection. I mean, we're like nobody, we're just like everybody else and like no one else at the same time, but one of my jobs on the operations side is working with all my engineering partners to say, what is going on in the product? Like, why did these incidents come in? And these aren't necessarily, they're not, as everyone knows, they're not necessarily defects. There can be a lot of usability. There's a lot you can do in software these days, and as we're getting into user experience, a lot of it's left up to interpretation. And so analyzing those incidents, I'm like, man, what can we do? Where did we go wrong? How can we help our customers get that out there to them? We analyze that on a daily basis, and how can we put that information or that process or that ability into the product, and then help do this for this set of issues, do this for that set of issues, whether it be a knowledge base, connecting in the community, multimedia. That's just one example. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
So it sounds like you're taking a few different pieces, right? So you're taking information and data that you already have. You're looking at some of the analytical trending kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You're taking your own personal experience and saying, okay, here's a certain pattern that we've seen with other customers. Let's present that to other folks that maybe are having those similar patterns. Is that sort of where you're trying to go in a much more proactive manner? Yeah,
absolutely. And the thing that I would add in there, and maybe I'll just be restating something you said, but one of the things that we can do, and that's the power of ServiceNow, is you saw maybe today Dan communicating in the keynote over 3,000 customers, 33% of the G2K, and we have all that data. And so we can start applying big data approach to that data and see insights that you're not going to be able to get in a small peer group. It's not enough information. It's not a panacea, but it's meaningful. And so we can look at usage statistics against our different applications, and well, what does that mean? Is there a correlation from people who use Service Catalog and they've been with us for 5 years compared to those who've been with us for 1 or 2? And then, what's their journey look like? What are they finding? What's their efficiency look like? What's their scaling look like? What does their automation look like? All of that, and then be able to go back to customers who are maybe at the beginning of that journey or starting to look and explore, and let them leapfrog. Why can't we share the experience, the collective experience of others to help everyone else, Put it out there. This is what we've done, this is what's available, and this is what we see.
Right, because and just to kind of add on to that, because I see that when I go into ServiceNow engagements, where there's so much available, you're like, what do we do next?
Where do I start?
And having, part of the reason they bring me in a lot of times, because I've been in a lot of them, so it's like, all right, I'm trying to do, and I'm sure all your partners do that, where they're like, okay, here's where you are, here's where others we've seen. So it sounds, it's a great idea where you're kind of trying to say, can we package this in a way?
Yes.
Here's some options on how other folks like you, when they were at your stage, went, and here's 2 or 3 paths.
Yeah,
that can save a ton of time.
As you say, we do that anecdotally when we go into organisations, say, well, I've seen this in another organisation, why don't you try this? But if you're able to, as you say, you've got that data there, if you're able to extrapolate that and make that meaningful, then you can make those customers leapfrog over where they would have been. So
because we're doing it with 50, 100, 200 customers. You're doing it with 30, 300,000, whatever that number is now. That's a far more accurate statistic than we can provide.
And one of the things that I think is also going to be really important is not just knowing where to start, but when you get there, us doing everything we can to expedite that process.
Yes.
And we've done that. So in our Helsinki release, we've put out guided setup, which is prescriptive, lays it out. You want to skip a step, go ahead. But we're telling you, here's what the setup is.
Here's the ones that have tried skipping that step. That hasn't really quite worked out.
But to cut back on that time to implement. And so you can just, don't worry, you don't have to worry about every nuance in your organization. Start here, get started, get momentum, get value, and then modify from there. And so you couple that with some prescription on the front end, and then get started through that. You're on your path to ongoing value, and then you interject more insights from there, like you keep that continuous improvement loop going. I know.
How dare you do that?
It really improves that time to value from getting into a new tool set, doesn't it? If you can pick up some processes really quickly and get started. Otherwise, when you pick up ServiceNow and you look at it and you think,
what do
I do first? But that prescriptive element to get people familiar and understanding what they can do, it's going to make a big difference.
It will, and I really think that there's a lot of blending going on right now in IT. It's not just IT resources born and bred came up the ranks that way. We can start seeing resources come in from different avenues, and so maybe they don't know ITSM, maybe they don't know ITIL frontwards and backwards. We can help you. It's okay. Come on in. You're going to get going. You're going to learn, and the investment's worth it. And it's not a difficult one. No.
I mean, you're quite right. People are now coming into service management from the business rather than coming up the ranks of IT. And that hand up makes a difference.
That's the big part. We've spoken, countless, like as Ken said, for years. A lot of us have been talking about sort of the business outcome. That's really what it comes down to. It sounds like you're trying to get those advocates, out in the lines, whether they're on the IT or whether on the business, and you only do that by giving them value right away.
That's right.
If they feel like they're being tortured along the way, not only are they not going to be an advocate, but they will pretty much put out any chance of actually growing into that area. So, that's great. I mean, the quicker you can get those folks in place, the more likely, the value is there, the business outcomes, positive business outcomes are there. That's tremendous.
And while we're starting, I think I said earlier, while we're starting with ITSM, we will be going across our entire application suite with guided setup for this. It's not just a struggle here. It's a struggle everywhere for people trying to get things done in the workplace and get that value. You want to go fast, and you want to know that you've got someone's best practice behind you. Maybe you're going to modify it to be your best practice, but you can get up and running quickly.
Yeah.
It was the target of workflow and process is not exclusive to IT. Even though sometimes we want to believe that is, right?
Yeah, we think we own it, but we don't.
We're different. We're always different. So taking those same principles that, like I said, you've gathered that information maybe from the IT side, expanding it out to the business areas. And we're still the only organization that refers to it as the business.
Yes.
Which we need to, we try to break that pattern.
I need to adjust that too, I think.
No, but we all do, because that's how we've kind of grown up through that. But, again, if you can get that audience and that population also bought in, that will drive some of these changes, because, IT, sometimes it's hesitant. Like, we don't want to upset the, the apple cart there, but if they're driving that and saying, we want you to do this, we'll work with you on that, the value is just, again, it's huge along the way.
Yes.
Right. Well, Farrell, it's been really good talking to you today, and we look forward to seeing how things progress as you move along.
Great, thank you. It's been super fun.
Thank you, Farrell.
Thanks, Farrell.
Thanks.